Hello, welcome to another coffee break with Kardec, our weekly program to talk about Genesis and some very interesting aspects that the book brings to us. And today the topic is instinct and intelligence. It's a very interesting topic and it's very deep actually. So what I'll try to do in our break, 15 minutes only that we have, I'm going just to bring the main ideas. And I'll leave an invitation here for those who are really interested in this topic to go to chapter 3 of Genesis and read into depth because Kardec discusses in a very interesting way. He presents all the possible explanations for things, and then he eliminates them according to reason and facts, and then he ends up with one that makes sense. And he points out very clearly here, we don't have anything better to explain what instinct is, what intelligence is, the relation that exists between the two. So I would advise you to read this chapter. But I'll bring the main points, the main aspects of it to our coffee break. And the first thing is there any difference between instinct and intelligence? So what's the difference? What makes us see instinct as one thing and intelligence as the other thing? Is there a borderline? Are they the same thing in different points of development? So where does one end and the other begin? Is instinct a kind of rudimentary form of intelligence, of a faculty that actually, as it develops, it moves away from instinct and moves into intelligence? Is intelligence something that belongs to the soul and instinct something that is purely material, a result of matter into action? So let's see the main ideas that Kardec brought to us after so many messages that he received from the spirits and analyzed. So instinct is a hidden force that drives organic beings to spontaneous, unintentional acts. And by unintentional, I mean it's a kind of reaction. It's a kind of behavior that comes without having been thought before, and especially for the purpose of self-preservation. And it's very interesting because when we study our material world, and don't forget, our material world is not something completely disconnected from the general spiritual universe that exists. Our material world is a small part of it. So we will see it sometimes under different conditions and the different ways of showing itself, but we will see the same laws acting here. So self-preservation. So in this sense, we have self-preservation, especially in material terms when you talk about instinct. But is the material world something that self-generated itself? Or is something behind that, something intelligent behind that? It's very interesting because when we study, although we are still a bit far from the final theory about the creation of the material universe, the one that we have nowadays is the theory of the Big Bang, which has been or is under refinement every day with new studies, new theories, and some adjustments here and there. But one thing is, the main facts in the theory of the Big Bang, where all the material universe appeared about 13.7, 13.8 billion years ago, is that at the beginning, it was just a soup of radiation. And then as this soup of radiation expanded, and with this expansion, it started to give way to particles, the subparticles, atomic subparticles, and then the particles that we know, the electrons, the protons, the neutrons, and then it continued to expand. It went through different processes. And then we went into a period where the material world, the material universe was formed basically by hydrogen. And the hydrogen that, wasn't, let's use the word, in fire. So the universe went into dark ages. And then all of a sudden, it ignites again, and the stars begin to form and to shine. How is that possible? Well, it underwent, and I'm talking about millions of years, and not talking about 1-2 years. And that matter that was uniformly spread around started to get together. And as it got together, gravity started to compact so much that it created high temperature and an amount of energy inside it that started to, ignite it and then carry on this process. We see that there's a force driving this. All the time when we follow this process, we see a continuous driving force. And it's easier now for us to see because we look back 13.7 billion years, and we see that in a short period of time, maybe in a A4 page or two. So it's easy for us to see how things were, being driven towards evolution. If we wait 1-2 years, 1,000, 2,000, perhaps 1 million years, we wouldn't notice the change. But when we look back, it's almost like in our life. When we are undergoing things, we don't see the purpose of them. But when we look back after, going past that, we then can analyze things in a different perspective. So we see this instinct. We could even see instinct in matter, in the atoms, for driving them towards this evolution. And then from this period in the universe appeared all the forms of material bodies here, plants, animals, and everything else. We all came from the stars. So, and we see this instinct, this self-preservation in the material world, which is called instinct. So instinct is something that is not reasoned. We don't think about instinct. We just react in an automatic way. It's something that is not planned. It's something that is not thought in advance. It's just a reaction. And we see that in a plant. When the plant, shoots its roots down in search of water, and then grows up looking for the sunshine, and produces new leaves, actually to be able to collect more of the sunlight. What is guiding that plant? We know the mechanisms, but what is the driving force towards that? When a flower opens and closes, some flowers we know they open and they close according to the time of the day or the season or whatever. So there is a kind of, we sometimes say, well, it's so intelligent, it's so these instincts through which nature acts, they are present in us as well. We also have our instincts. But is instinct something good or something bad? Well, if it is for our self-preservation, yes, it's something really good. But is it always good? So we'll see. For instance, the vine, something that, amazes me is when we see the tendrils of the vine, just that little stem, that grows, and then when it touches something, it wraps itself around that just to make the plant, stable and then carry on growing. I said, how come it gives the impression that there's something that, being guided? Is it really being guided? It is instinct. But is there anything guiding instinct? And this is very interesting to see. And of course, the animal kingdom. We see from the search for food, from the strategies that some animals they develop in order to get their food, to hunt, to get their prey. And the way they construct their nests, for instance. Sometimes we see some birds make some wonderful work that we can say, oh, it can't be by chance. And why all of them, all of these very same species, they do it in the very same way. And sometimes if we go to another country, the same species has some slight adaptations to the conditions of that country. So things have been adapted to that conditions, not changed completely, but adapted. How come? So all this is done by instincts. We know that the animals, they don't plan, sit down, and plan how they are going to build their nests. And then they go searching for the material they need and say, well, I need this. Oh, I don't have this. So I can look for that into that forest. No, we know it doesn't work that way. So it's beautiful to see that instinct is something more than just an automatic reaction of the material world, material bodies, material beings, or even what we see in terms of atomic level. And intelligence. What is intelligence? So intelligence is revealed through the acts that are intentional, thought out, premeditated. They are calculated according to the turn of the circumstances. So this is the main difference from instinct. Instinct is like following a rule blindly. The other one is say, well, you can decide what to do. It's like, we learn how to do things. But when we learn how to do things, we don't know at the beginning how to do it properly. And then with experience, with time, with the exercise of our intelligence, we begin to master the process. And that process and another process and many other processes. So we see that intelligence is an attribute of the soul, of the spirit, that develops since the very beginning, little by little, through the experiences in our life. So every automatic action, it is instinct. So, and these automatic actions given by instinct, they are always certain. They are always right in the sense that they give, for instance, the animal the way to survive. And I remember seeing once going to a copper, or used to be a copper mine in Cyprus, an open copper mine. And the environment was really harsh. And there was a geologist with me, and he said, the conditions for life here are the worst that we can get. The combination, the substances, the residues from the copper mining and everything makes life impossible here. But look, there was a little bush in the middle of that barren place. And it was there. And he said, no explanation can tell you how that bush is there surviving, but it's there thriving. So we see what makes it possible is actually instinct, a form of instinct acting in nature. But we have intelligence. Intelligence is not perfect. It gives us the options. It gives us the opportunity to plan, to think, and decide. Instinct, no. It has no error. Instinct is something that is part of life and always drives us in the right direction. So instinct is always good, and intelligence is not good. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that when we go deep into that, and that's why I advise you to go and read Kardec, because he evaluates all the theories, the explanations that are possible to this, and the one he comes out with, it's very interesting, is that when we are under the actions of instinct, it's like someone taking control of what we do. A little plant, very tender, it needs protection. It needs to be guided. It has to be sheltered from the wind, from the rain, from the environment until it is strong enough to decide then that it's going to spread a branch that way or this way. It can, withstand strong winds and so on. So that's what the process we all undergo. We start with instincts, and instincts show a great intelligence. So the instincts is the action or are the actions of an intelligence behind that. And because of the uniformity of instincts, this intelligence is one intelligence and a great intelligence. So we go back. We've said before that God is everywhere. And this is the way that God is acting upon his creation. We are, everything is God's creation. We are his creation. So the way of acting is giving this intelligent drive to the creation through instincts. But we are intelligent beings as well, perfectible. We are going to be perfect. And how are we going to be perfect? If we are always guided like a small child. Then comes intelligence. Intelligence is our opportunity to slowly develop our own abilities. And when we have developed our intelligence enough, we are always having the opportunity to act upon the creation as co-creators of God as we develop our intelligence. It's just like in any area in our lives here, in our life here on Earth, we, as we develop our intelligence faculties, we take upon ourselves more important and difficult tasks. It's the same. So when we are using our intelligence, we are having the opportunity to develop it. But while our intelligence is not enough to help us make the right decisions, and we are still making some wrong decisions, we are supported by the instincts that will make sure we'll move forward. It's like I remember when I was learning to ride a bike. My father was always there holding the bike because I would go to one side or the other. And then he was always there. And I was just, starting to get the control. And after a while, I was, in condition to ride a bike by myself without his help. It's more or less what instincts do until we develop our intelligence. And we have to develop our intelligence. It's our aim as spirits. That is the reason why we undergo several incarnations, first in a dense world like Earth, physical world, and then in different places where the influence of matter is lesser and lesser. Okay, that's what I had for today. If we have comments, if you have questions, you can always leave here, and we'll check that later. Okay, thank you so much. See you in our next coffee break with Kardec.